Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about Nerd Rage. Obviously, this immediately makes me think of like the Your Favorite Martians song, Nerd Rage, which I haven't heard that in so many years. But obviously, that song is like a joking thing, but obviously there's like some truth to it. And obviously with more recent events, obviously it's a whole conversation of like, people who, when you're nerdy and passionate about something, you kind of have a tendency to kind of lash out when it's like, oh, you like this thing that I like, and like, I didn't like this thing, and you're wrong for liking it, it's that type of thing. Obviously, the most recent example being like, the whole Star Wars situation, which is so interesting to me because I never knew, like, prior to like recently, I never even knew that the Star Wars fan base was as divided on The Last Jedi as it were. Now, obviously, that's come into a situation with the rise of Skywalker, and obviously, it kind of gets a little vitriol. Obviously, this isn't something just allocated to just the Star Wars fandom. I mean, it's a conversation I've had before about hardcore fandom in general, that, we as nerds, we have a tendency to kind of, take ownership of the things that we like, we kind of almost identify with it. So when it's like, when someone, either does something to that said property that maybe we didn't like Star Wars, like making shifts in it that maybe we don't really like, or maybe just someone criticizing something you like, which obviously criticizing something is never people are entitled to feel the way they feel about things, and it should never be an issue for someone to like critique something. Obviously them just playing like, there's a difference between criticizing something and just being a complete another asshole about something. If you just like, if you want to critique something being like, this wasn't it wasn't for me, I think they kind of mess up, that's fine and dandy. I know that, I mean, because like I get it, like, because I have that nerd rage sometimes. I mean, granted, I don't ever get too about it, but I do get defensive about the certain things I like, because I won't have that knee-jerk reaction where it's like, wait, you didn't like what I liked? How dare you? Because, but I never really act upon it, because I have to remind myself, I was like, right, people are entitled to their opinions. Just because you like something doesn't mean someone else does. Because for me, that's a byproduct of, because I'm always in my little bubble when it comes to things that I like. So like, because I'm in my little bubble, I'm always like, oh, because I like or love this thing, universally everyone's got to feel that way. And that's not the case. That's actually been a recurring conversation I've been kind of having recently, just because of everything, so like I said, it's just kind of like I said, it's always just a knee-jerk reaction, but it's never just something like I'm yelling at someone like, oh, you don't like what I like, I hate you. It's whatever. It's like, hey, the fact is I'm comfortable with what I like, and then like, someone else doesn't like it, that's 100% their prerogative. They can like what they like. Not everyone in the world needs to like what I like, and I think that's something we all kind of have a tendency to, we kind of let our nerdiness kind of get the best of us. I mean, obviously this isn't just a nerdy conversation, that spectrum kind of goes much further than that, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of keeping this allocated to just nerdy stuff for now. But obviously in itself, it's a much bigger conversation as well. Like I said, I think we have a tendency to think, just because someone like criticizes something we love, because like I said, we're so connected to it, we kind of take this ownership of it. It feels like you're criticizing me in some way. I feel like that's how some people might kind of interpret that sometimes. Once again, everyone should be entitled to their own opinion. So if you don't like something, it's okay to say you don't like it. Once again, you can criticize and just be like, hey, this wasn't my cup of tea. As long as you're not being an asshole about it, about like, oh, you don't like what I like, you're a terrible person, or you like this thing, you're a terrible person, so as long as it's not that. Like I said, because I know there's plenty of things that I really like that, I know it's not everyone else's cup of tea. And like I said, I think it's just, like I said, it's still a knee-jerk reaction, but I think it's just, at the end of the day, it's how we handle that knee-jerk reaction. Like, as long as we're not just like quick to just kind of shout out in the ether, it's kind of like, hey, you put your opinion out there, as long as you're not trying to shove it down other people's throats, I think it's fine, just kind of be like, hey, this is my thoughts on it, and just kind of walk away at it. And I mean, it could lead to an interesting conversation, because you could see like, okay, so this is why this person didn't like this and that. Like I've talked about that recently, about like me disagreeing with certain people on certain things, but it's like, okay, I can see where they're coming from this perspective of like, oh, why this certain thing didn't resonate with them. It didn't change how I felt about said material, but it's still just interesting to kind of get that other perspective, because like I said, I have a tendency to be inside my own bubble, and that's always the thing of like, I think me, and as well as a lot of people, we should take a step back to be like, okay, I can see why you had issues with that. Granted, those weren't issues for me, but still, it's always good to kind of hear other people's opinions about certain things, even if they don't align with your own. Obviously, like I said, this is just a nerdy conversation, but obviously this conversation is actually much bigger than just nerdy stuff. But still, it can apply to many other aspects in life. Obviously, I'm not here to try to get all preachy and stuff like that. Obviously, it's just something that's kind of been rattling off in my head for a while. Like I said, it isn't just this Star Wars situation. I feel like Star Wars just happens to be like the the most large fan base has kind of been the most vocal. But I mean, once again, it's always a thing with other fan bases I've talked about in the past, where like certain things will change and that'll be an issue amongst a fan base, you know. So, you know, I mean, no fan base is ever probably going to be 100% behind something. There's always going to be people who either have an issue with something or just straight up hate something, you know. I mean, like I said, there could always be, you know, an example would be like a property I like is Kingdom Hearts. Like Kingdom Hearts 3, from what I've picked up on from a lot of people, Kingdom Hearts 3 divided a lot of the Kingdom Hearts fan base. I'm on the side of really liking it, but a lot of people had their issues, which, hey, I recognize their issues. They just weren't issues that bothered me. I actually kind of enjoyed said things that some people, it kind of bothered some people. Like I said, some of the stuff, I was like, yeah, I can get behind that, but other stuff, I'm like, yeah, like, I could see why that'd be an issue to you, but it wasn't for me, you know, like I've said before. So, like I said, it's just something, you know, I was thinking about that, you know, maybe anyone watching this video might think about it too. Like I said, I'm not trying to get all preachy or anything. Like I said, it was just something I just, I don't know, want to kind of add my own little 2 cents to. You know, these are just my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.